Welcome into Game Changers. We are back again.
Week two.
From our
after the hiatus.
I know. Week 2. Yeah. We're already in mid-season form, or at least trying to be.
We're going to talk hockey?
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Hey, you know, there's a preseason game in like 6.5 weeks.
Very nice.
70 days away from the time of this taping.
You got tickets for the opener for us? You got tickets for the opener for me?
Yeah, you got a credit card? You guys messed up not buying those tickets last year. Go for season tickets. Cunio says it was Bo Camper's fault. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was his fault, wasn't it?
He called, and there's none left.
There's none left.
If we're going to tell this story, let's tell it right.
Yeah.
What, Mike? Yeah. There's no more lower bowl, so we're
nothing wrong with the first, especially the first few rows.
Look, when I went to the playoff for the finals, I sat up in the thin. It's pretty nice up there.
That's what I was trying to tell you.
You know, you can see the things open up down there in the ice.
You could just buy the Bo Camper suite, and then the two of you and 12 of you better.
And they give you the tissue for the nosebleeds and stuff.
That's all right.
There's nothing wrong with it. Don't be one of those guys.
It's easier to get a hot dog up there in that concourse. I'll tell you that.
All right. Well, speaking of Panthers,
or three.
Speaking of two,
we know Tua. Thank you, my guy. Tua, a big Panther fan.
Yeah.
He could buy all the season tickets. He
could
buy a chunk of the team right now. The deal he got.
Hey, Mr. Viola, I like to own a piece.
You'd be Pat Mahomes. You're part of the Royals. You're part of the soccer team.
Yeah.
Players are becoming owners these days.
So, Bo, I'll start with you.
Got a couple restaurants if you'd like to buy.
What do you think? A little business deal.
There you go.
What do you think of the deal? Do you think it was fair? Do you think the market is the market and it panned out for him?
I don't think they had another choice. You know, we talked about it last week. He's the best quarterback we've had since Dan Marino, far and away. You don't want to lose him. You get what he's getting. And look, he's gotten better. He's solved his problems every year. He solved the injury problem. Now he's trying to get a little leaner, and so he can be a little more nimble out there. Doing that, I don't hope that doesn't go back to the injury situation. But he's kind of he's checking off the boxes. And so there's still a couple boxes out there to check off. You know, winning against good teams, winning late in the seasons, and I'm expecting him coming out of the offseason to have done his due diligence and try to get those to the point where he checks off those boxes. If he does, we're in a window of about 4 or 5 years, because if he keeps going, he's going to keep him they'll sign him again to about $500,000 then, about that number. But we'll be in a big window for about 5 years, and that's and look, that's what the money is. It's absurd money, but that's just what it is. And so I'm happy. He's happy. He said, "Show me the money." So I say now, "Show me the Super Bowl."
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, and you're right.
Interesting enough, Goldie, on this list, you see all these guys with big money.
Yeah.
No Super Bowls, one Super Bowl appearance, or 2 Super Bowl appearances there, but no Super Bowl wins.
Right.
Yep.
Are you upset that Patrick Mahomes is the last guy on this list?
Well, no, I'm not upset, because he signed his deal a while ago, and that's the way it always. Hours after Tua signed on that other screen for his money, that's why Love is first. And guess what? When Dallas gets Dak Prescott signed, which they're probably going to in the next 5 weeks, he's going to be at about $60 million. People need to understand. The players' salaries are based on the revenue of the league. The players get half the money. Now, how teams divvy that up, that's a different story. But for the percentage of the salary cap, Tua is not making so much money where you can't have the rest of a team, because you got Waddle and Ramsey and Hill. They're all making a fortune. So that's the market price.
You talk about Mahomes. There are ways to maneuver that money around. We're going to push some of this way. We'll defer this out. Believe me, he's not crying poor. No. I think if you saw his contract the way it is now compared to these guys, he'd probably be right up at that level, if not more.
Oh, he'd be at the top.
About $60 million guy. He'd be the first $60 million guy.
I do want to mention this about Tua, because being in that press conference the other day after he did sign, felt like a completely different guy up there. Like, the last few years, he always had these doubts hanging over his head. The fact that Stephen Ross and company said, "We're going to give you this money, you're our QB for the long term," I'm telling you, it felt like a more confident, more free guy up there, that he could speak freely and be the leader he wants to be.
You know, we've been to training camp practices three times this week. First day, Tua threw out there, and I didn't like his body language at all. I mean, he was just kind of moping around. Second day, he didn't participate. Then he got his contract. Boy, his body language and his confidence and you could see it. Right. You could see it in his emotions. You could see the way he carried himself. You could see the way he was approaching the huddle and doing all those things. I think he's from a personal standpoint, he could not be in a better position right now to do what he needs to do and get this team into the playoffs and deep into the playoffs.
Yeah, and he knows that. Tentative. You know, when they asked him, what are the main things you need? He goes, we got to win more games than that.
How about a center and 2 guards? That would help.
Well, yeah, 100%.
That's another thing.
But he's talking about winning the games that matter. Tua and Mike McDaniel. We knew this about McDaniel. I think we now know it about Tua. These guys are not running and hiding and trying to make it, well, you know, we went into Kansas City, it was cold, and we went to Baltimore, and the Bills returned. They're not making excuses on it. They know there's a reason there's a scoreboard up there. And that's what you're judged by. Did you win the game? Did you lose the game? They haven't done well enough on the road against good teams in the big spots. They're embracing that, and they know they need to get over that hump.
I believe you. I think Mike and Tua are lockstep as far as that point.
Well, they are.
And you know what? And you know what really helped them now is Jordan Poyer coming in and saying, "Hey, this is how the Bills beat you guys."
How about that comment? Yeah. We knew they were going to fold.
Soft, yeah.
And how about Jalen Ramsey at practice this week having a 10-minute conversation with the team, saying we have to be the bullies out here. That leads me to my next question. This one's for you, Goldie, because we saw Jalen Wright and Kader Kohu kind of mix it up, get started. I know you're big on the rookies. You called Devon Achane last year. You thought he was going to have a big year, and he did. Are you putting Jalen Wright maybe in that conversation for this year's maybe breakout rookie?
1,000%. I think when it's all said and done, and this is how good everybody is, I think he might be the best running back on this team. Now, not right now. You got Raheem, and of course you have Achane, and Jeff Wilson's around there. But this guy seems to me like he's a big combination of all of them. He's fast and he's big and he could shed tackles. So, you talk about rookies. Obviously, they need Chop Robinson, especially early on without Chubb and Phillips, to come up big. But I'm looking at Jalen Wright. There's a reason, when they draft these offensive players since McDaniel got here and they pick them up, there's a reason why. As we look at, Mo Kamara there as well.
They've all got a certain thing, a talent that they've got that may be unique to them. And I think with Wright, as soon as they draft him out of Tennessee, that guy's going to be the guy. He's probably excuse me, he'll be the guy that you really look at this year. I think the impact from him, a little bit bigger, you get a little tight coverage where you got to punch the ball a little bit and have some strength behind you. I think he produces that. But he's one of those guys, he gets back to the second level. He can go all the way anytime, as well as every other running back in that room right now. So he just has a lot more speed, but I think that strength that's going to give him a little punch in that 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2 to get that and maybe break it all the way. I think it's going to be a big bonus for this team.
And there's no knock on anybody, but you go back 3 years. It's not criticizing the players. They're in the NFL. They're good. Savon Ahmed and Myles Gaskin were your running backs.
Right.
Now you look at it. You're 3 deep now, literally. Right. Any one of those guys could play on opening day and touch the ball 25 times, and you will not have a problem with it. And then you got Jeff Wilson in there, who's an accomplished guy who, by the way, they may not beat Dallas in that game last year without him and those runs late in the game. So it's amazing how they've kind of transformed in a couple of years that running back room. It's the deepest position on the team.
Wright may give you a little bit of an outlet pass receiver coming out of that backfield too. So there's a lot. Look, that offensive side of the football is stacked. The defensive side of the football is stacked. Interior lines on both sides, biggest question mark, I think, for this season going in.
We'll try to answer all those question marks on Camp Dolphins each and every night on CBS Miami after the news at 11:30. Make sure you join us.
Have them come in and
take it easy.
Give us some technique.
By the way, Dolphins Weekly Live also back this week at 11:30.
Oh, it's go time, baby.
Sunday. You know it's football season when Dolphins Weekly Live comes on.
And we're with you all the way to the end.
There you go, all the way to the end. The bitter end. Hopefully it's not the bitter end.
No days off for you, by the way. You need to be there every single week. You need to be like Tua. No, head up. You need to be like Tua last year. You need to play every game.
Start eating some beef or something, pork and stuff like that.
You guys are going to do great.
Get him a cup. What's that?
Still on Game Changers.
We're going to be in Ottawa.
We're going to talk about some days off I'm taking, plus what the heck the Marlins did at the trade deadline. We'll be back.
Some good stuff for the Yankees.
Game Changers is sponsored by your Volkswagen dealers of South Florida. Shop your 7 passenger favorites at VWFlorida.com.
Welcome back to Game Changers. We're going to keep the NFL talk rolling here because there's talk out there that the NFL might move to an 18-game schedule.
Yeah.
What? Oh.
I'm fine with it.
Didn't you play like 25 games a year back in the day?
No, they've always played 20. They just mixed the preseasons up with the we didn't play 21 games one year because we played 7. We had 7 preseason games at that time. I'm fine with 18 games.
Really?
I'm fine with 18 games.
Why?
Get rid of well, first of all, if you're a fan, you're paying full boat for those two playoff preseason for all those preseason games that you really don't want to watch. You're paying full dollar for it. You might as well get the real deal for the money that you're paying. So I think from the fan standpoint, it's great. Players don't want to go to training camp anymore. You're looking at training camp out there. It's a walkthrough every day. Let's get to the game. Let's get to the season, and let's get it going. And you know what? So here's my thing: play 18 games. You get two bye weeks, and you take away the injured reserve clause. When you're hurt, when you're ready to come back, you come back and play, no matter what. Then guy can get hurt early in the year, come back mid-season and contribute, and you're not having to sit out because of some stupid rule change that you can't come back for the rest of the year.
18, it does seem like a lot, though. I mean, we have expanded rather quickly here, I think. Goldie, do you think players will be on board with this?
Yeah, because the NFLPA and their agents are going to get paid more money because you're going to bring in more money.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's the bottom line. That 18th game is going to be on TV somewhere, and someone's going to have to pay for it. So at the end of the day, money rules it. Do I think it's good for, trying to protect the players? I don't think from that standpoint. I think the 17 already, we see at the end of the year, 90% of the league is so banged up. But as Bo says, that's what people want to see.
Right.
And you got, this year in
what's
December.
What's your beef with it?
I'm just asking the question.
This week,
no, I can tell with your body language.
I don't think he loves it.
It's hot out there.
Yeah.
It's hot. It's the dog days already.
In December of this year, you're going to have a game at one point because when the holidays are, I believe every night of the week.
Yeah.
So, old school of, hey, Sunday afternoon, and maybe a Monday night, Sunday night. It's all out the window. It's all due to money.
Yep.
People want to consume the product, and they're just going to continue to raise more and more and more money. And that's why we've seen in the last few years these joint practices coming.
Don't be surprised 5 years down the road if it's not a 20-game schedule.
Oh, don't say that.
No more preseason.
No more preseason.
What do you mean?
No more preseson
We'll
games.
call joint practices.
We'll that's it.
Joint
there you go.
There we go.
But that's
selfishly, I say 10 preseason games.
I would prefer. I think they get more out of the joint practices before the preseason games than they do the preseason game.
They
do that.
They keep saying that, but let me ask you this, Bo, and you're the only one that can answer this on this show anyway. Isn't there a factor of I know the games don't count, but they count for about 20, 25 guys that are playing in a big way.
Doubt.
But isn't there some value in getting ready as a team in the locker room and running out of the tunnel, and there are fans?
And not doing it week one.
As the lights being on?
No, I don't think so. I think you've been through that and all that. But you bring up a point. You know what you lose with that? The less preseason games you have, you lose that guy that was a free agent, street free agent, or some guy that got traded that's in the backside of the roster that turns out to be an all-pro maybe because he showed up in training camp, got a roster spot. I've seen a number of guys do it, become a starter, and some become a star. Those guys are going to be gone by the wayside. They have no opportunity. If you're not a draft choice, if you're not a high free agent, you're going to have no chance. You're just going to be cannon fodder out there for training camp.
How do you think this affects
But there's not much hidden going on in training camp.
I was going to say, how does this affect practices and training camps if there's an 18-game set?
It can't get any easier than this, Mike. I'm serious.
Dude, it's so hot out there.
Stop with the hot.
I'm just hot. I asked a question to Elijah Campbell this week about the brawl, and I said, is that kind of just the heat, the hitting, dog days of summer? I walk upstairs, he goes, Mike, come here.
Dog days.
Dog days of summer.
Dog days.
Back in my day.
No, I never said back in my day. Their third practice, dog days.
They're in smoothies by 12:30.
Darn right.
I didn't get a smoothie.
By the way, personalized smoothies. You need whey protein. You need. I just think
I didn't see a smoothie.
The amount of physicality
they're going to start bringing up popsicles out on the practice field to keep them cool down.
They need to do this in training camp so the guys get through the season. They're barely making it through the season as it is now. Especially that Sunday, Thursday turnaround, Bo. That's brutal.
I talked to Larry Zonk at one point, and he said, Coach Shula was a guy that took bad things and made them turn them into an advantage. The heat. How can you make the heat? Well, you practice in that heat. You get used to the heat, and then when teams come down here, they die when they come down here, and you're in the fourth quarter, you're walking all over them. So you take a disadvantage, you turn it into an advantage. But they've got all this, they've got all this new technology. They've got all the medical stuff. You can't go. You can only go this far. You can only run this far this week.
To maximize
all those analytics about health and everything. And look, the whole league's doing it. So. But I will give you this. Well, you think Dan Campbell's practices up in Detroit are harder than this? Do you think Pittsburgh? You think they're running light training camps?
No, those two are not.
No.
Tomlin and Campbell.
You think
not.
Buffalo with that coach?
Yeah.
You think they're not getting a little tougher practices? I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just that's what it is at this time of year. We'll see how it plays out.
And the sports science, by the way, does work. And I'll go back to the Stanley Cup final. Remember all that stuff? The Panthers went the day before, and they got in 2 hours later.
Doesn't matter.
It's not all about hockey.
They track everything, and they know, whether we like it or not, how much rest Mike Cugno needs
a lot.
to be at, that's a good point, how much rest, let's go to Kim Bokamper needs to get to this point. And they'll track you and they'll know, hey, you took a day off.
When we used to travel, if we traveled from the East Coast to the West Coast, as long as we were going past like Denver, we would go out 2 days early to acclimate yourself to it. And you know what? We like going because on that Friday we got there, we didn't have curfew.
There you go. What are you acclimating to? Plus you were sitting
acclimating to the bars.
Plus you were sitting in the smoking section on commercial airlines back then.
Don't lose your mind.
What are we talking about here?
The only analytics I need is the temperature and the feels like, because it's like 91, but it feels like 101.
Yeah, it's hot. It's Florida in July.
It feels like 101. It's 101.
It's August in Florida. What do you want, Mike?
What do I want? The next segment of Game Changers.
We're
going to talk about the Marlins trades. Yeah.
He wants to be inside. He wants them to be inside all the time.
You complain about the heat lamps in here.
It's toasty in here.
Welcome back to Game Changers. It's been a long time since we've talked about this team in any good sense, light. They had a fire sale for sure. Traded 10 guys, they got 14 back. Goldie, are you okay with the moves the Marlins made? Now you're going to watch Jazz Chisholm go play with the Yankees.
That's been fun.
And he is now a Bronx Bomber.
A lot of ding-dongs right off the bat, man.
Right out the gate. Are you okay with what the Marlins did?
Well, I mean, right now, I'm actually okay with it because they already didn't try to build on last year. What they should have done this offseason is build on last year. You got Josh Bell. You know who you got back for Josh Bell?
Who? Nothing.
Literally. Just said Arizona paid the guy.
Yeah.
Now, supposedly, for Tanner Scott and some of these guys, they got some prospects. Yeah. I've been hearing this for 25 years.
It's the most constant thing in South Florida sports.
When they traded Derek Lee and Miguel Cabrera and Mike Lowell, and the list goes on and on, they got guys back. It gets tiring.
They should let this team just take the rest of the season off, get Stoneman Douglas or Westminster Academy, put them in Marlins Park, and it'll be more entertaining than watching what they've got left. And then look, I don't know if they've made these trades in order to bolster their farm system to maybe get some more prospects.
They needed a farm system. I think that's what.
They needed to make the playoffs again. Is what they needed to do in South Florida.
That's the reason for the move.
What are you to say to somebody that bought season tickets for this team?
Right.
And you're paying, and they want to go to all the games. And now, you got not the better half of the season go. You still got about 30 some odd games or 40 some odd games, and you want to go watch 20 of those games or 25 of those games.
You're not going to know anyone out there.
You're not going to know anybody. Right. They're going to trade Billy the Marlin next week.
So my issue with this is like, we want to build around young guys and all that. Okay, well
Jazz young?
Jazz was a young guy.
Those aren't his guys. That's what happens when you change GMs too often. Then you get the guy, well, that's not my guy, and I didn't draft him, or I didn't sign him. So I think we're seeing some of that. And now say this about Peter Bendix and where he's trying to bring this thing as general manager, a young guy. He's trying to do what Houston. Remember, Houston lost, 115 games a few years? 3 years later, they win the World Series.
Right.
Tampa Bay.
Perennial powerhouse.
Yeah, Tampa Bay has always been able to do it.
You think they're on their track? You think they're on that track?
Until I see it. No, but when you get a new GM and you go with a guy like when Derek Jeter was here, Jeter had that Yankee way. We're going to try to win now. We're not going to spend, but the Yankees are spending.
Well, you need an owner that'll spend.
And it got to the point where they did that, but at this point in this season, when it's already been a disaster, it's hard to blame him now for cutting it even more and just rebuild the whole thing. The question is, are any of those 14 guys A, going to be any good,
right?
B, play anytime soon, right. And C, most importantly, if they are good, are they going to stick around? Are you going to get rid of them in 3-4 years?
We got to go. What I can say about this, from what I've read, a lot of people think the Marlins did a good job in all this in terms of building the farm system. You're not going to get guys that are
but if any of those guys are good in 2 years, are they going to keep those guys? Or are they going to be the next one? They get traded anyway?
That's been that 25-year story about these guys.
Still to come on Game Changers, some Olympic talk. Jason Tatum on the bench. Time to get to some Olympic basketball talk here in Game Changers before we go. Anyone feel bad for Jason Tatum not getting in the USA's
He'll get in when they play South Sudan. Maybe they'll play better than they did in the exhibition before.
Yeah, they beat him. But, I mean, the sight of him being on the bench was pretty interesting. I think Steve Kerr felt a little bad, Goldie.
I feel terrible for him.
Do you really?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the games, especially that first game they play, they're not competitive games. They're blowing people out anyway. He's one of the best players in the world. He's an NBA give him a few minutes. Why would you bench anybody on that team?
And he loses out on the MVP in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, to his teammate.
And now he's sitting on the bench in the Olympics. Yeah, that's a little.
I just don't see why anybody on this team ever sits on the bench.
Everybody should be a rotation. Everybody plays.
Allow me to make him feel better. Back in 1992, Leitner, Stockton averaged 7 minutes a game. Stockton played in only 4 games. Magic Johnson played in 6 of the 8. So Magic didn't get into a couple of games. So that lets you know that it is hard to get all these guys in.
I get it.
But I think Heat fans probably love the image of him sitting on the bench.
Sure, why not? It's a little embarrassing, though. I feel bad for him.
I do feel bad, but
I feel bad when rookies drop balls at Dolphins camps. I feel bad for people.
You do. I do not. That's going to do it for Game Changers.
You don't either. Whoa.
We're the big softies.
I feel bad when these guys are trying to make the team and they make a bad play. I feel, it's their one chance.
The Publix is looking for people.
Oh, that'll do it for Game Changers.
You're always looking for good people.
Bye, Bo.
See you.